Hello, I'm Jesse Fajemisin. I'm part of the Dynamics Board NED community, and today I'm interviewing two of the team at Thames 21. Coode, the chief executive, and Alison Archer, the head of fundraising. Thames 21 are looking for a new chair for their board, and this video is your chance to get to know them a bit more and what they're looking for. So, to kick us off, Alison, as head of fundraising, it'd be good to get to know a bit more about Thames 21. So, tell us, why are rivers important for climate resilience and biodiversity across London and the Thames Basin?
Thanks, Jesse. So, rivers are vital for climate resilience and biodiversity across London and the Thames Basin. Basically, London is a river city. It's here because of our rivers. The city grew up around the rivers because they provide our most basic need, which is for water. But we have modified them, we've built over them, we've undergrounded them, we've straightened them, we've put them into concrete channels, and we've polluted them. They're highly polluted. So they are very unhealthy. And this is critical because climate is changing very, very fast. And with climate change, we're getting more extreme weather events, for example, more heavy rain and more periods of hot, dry weather. And this produces two extremes. One is flooding. We see that every year, more and more across London. And the other is water scarcity. Water stress is highly likely across the southeast of England, and that includes London. And healthy rivers are much, much, much better at helping to absorb the impacts of those climate change impacts than unhealthy rivers. Healthy rivers have meanders. That means the flow of water is slowed, and that reduces flooding downstream. They have wetlands, there's space for the water to go to, and they hold on to water for longer. They're more biodiverse, they have habitat for wildlife, and they're cleaner. In addition to that, they're also going to be much nicer places for Londoners to enjoy and spend time with or next to.
Thank you for that. I'm sure lay people and the average commuter probably pass rivers and take for granted their existence and the role they play in the wider sense of things. So thank you for that. And in terms of Thames 21's role in that, what is it exactly, and how has it maybe changed over time? You know, you've referenced a change in weather circumstances and the climate.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So what does Thames 21 do? We restore rivers across London and the Thames Basin. We do this by using nature-based solutions. We use nature to make rivers healthier. And what that does is it does many things. It reduces flood risk. It improves biodiversity. It allows places for wildlife to thrive, and obviously also benefits communities. When I say nature-based solutions, what I mean is things like constructing wetlands in river catchments, which filter the water. They extract pollutants completely naturally, allowing cleaner water to join the main river system. And they also hold water back, to prevent flooding, and they provide habitat for wildlife. So that's one example of a nature-based solution. There are many that we use. But our real magic is that in all our work, we involve communities. So we're going to bring in the local communities from the stretch of river on which we're working, if we're doing improvements there, to get them involved, to help them to understand, act on, and enjoy their local river, so that we're not just doing a piece of work and then leaving, we're actually embedding that action for rivers and advocacy for rivers in the local community so that they can actively have ownership of it. Absolutely, it's that ownership that is a big thing. But as well as that, we're also helping to improve well-being and social cohesion. So there are so many benefits to working in this way, I think. Thames 21 was founded by volunteers. It was founded by people who were really concerned about the amount of litter that was building up on the Thames in central London. And so they activated themselves to start doing something about it. That then became a partnership of organisations that are still some of our key partners. So volunteers are really at our heart. That's an important thing to say. But since then, we've expanded the scope of what we do hugely, because the health of rivers is about much more than litter and the things that collect on the Thames. You can't make the Thames healthy by just working on a stretch of Thames. You actually have to treat the whole catchment. So our work has expanded to encompass river health right across the Thames Basin. So we're kind of doing this big scale regenerative work at the landscape scale, but still involving volunteers in every part of it.
Thank you very much for that overview about the work you do generally. I was going to say that I'm sure the fact that it's nature-based and you're trying to tap into people's sense of local responsibility, that can be quite attractive to prospective volunteers and maybe prospective chairs in the context of your recruitment. So can you give us an idea of your scale in terms of financial resources, teams? We're just talking about volunteers, for example.
So we're expecting income of about £3 million this financial year, and that's grown from about £1.2 million about 4 years ago. So we've had quite a fast pace of growth. We do want to continue to grow, but probably not quite at that pace. We want to have sustainable and steady and planned growth. Alongside that, our staff team in the same time period has grown from about 24 to now we're round about 45. So we're a much bigger staff team. In terms of the number of volunteers we work with, we're currently working with about 10,000 volunteers a year, and we want to grow that to at least 12,000 in the next few years, and probably more than that. So, the trajectory is certainly that we are a growing organisation, and we want to continue to grow all our impacts as well. But it's also worth saying that we achieve many of our results by working in partnerships, so we also want to grow our partnerships.
Thank you. And Chris, if it's okay, we'll come to you to talk about the chair a bit more. So what is the role of the chair at Thames 21?
We have a board of trustees, and the board are, like any charity, are overseeing the governance of the charity, making sure that we are kind of compliant, but also helping sort of support and steer the direction of the organisation, make sure we're meeting our objectives, and also looking to sort of support us to kind of grow and do more. So the chair is critical in that role. We want a kind of an active chair that will sit within the board of trustees and help manage and support them so they can work effectively with us. We'd like a chair who will help lead on providing challenge for the senior management team and support. We're looking for a chair who can bring their skills to help us and bring new ideas if possible. We are a relatively small charity, but we do have plans, a 5-year plan for growth, and we're looking to make sure that growth is sustainable across London. And also, particularly for me as CEO, I'm looking for a chair who can provide management oversight, make sure that I'm doing what I've said I'm going to do, and a sounding board, I think, for times when I need someone outside the SMT to sort of talk about how the organisation might change or develop or do more. So, yeah, I mean, we're looking for a lot, but we feel it's a really exciting offer.
Thank you. So you're the CEO, and you've mentioned aspects of the role that will require you to be supported, to be managed from the chair perspective. So what kind of traits and behaviours would you say are quite key to that relationship between you as CEO and the chair?
I mean, it's very interesting for me because I'm relatively new in post, so I've only been in post since last summer. But the flip side of that is I've been at Thames 21 for a long time, so I have a very deep knowledge of the organisation. I've had various roles within the organisation, but this is my first time as a CEO, but working for the organisation I'm in. So, what I would like, the person I would really like to work to is someone who has a passion for the cause, someone who's committed to what we are trying to do as a charity. I'd really like someone who feels a strong connection with London. We are a London-based organisation, and while we're environmentalists at heart, we are also trying to work with our community. So someone who has a sense of London, the place, and London, the identity, this vibrant, energetic city, while at the same time has a sense of its environment is really important. So that's really important to me. And someone whose experience and knowledge will provide a new perspective, who wants to bring their skills, who wants to offer some challenge, but also looking to offer support. I think there's a real opportunity for someone to make an impact and so show real benefit. Personal benefit for me, that relationship. I'd like someone who I get a real sense of sort of trust and collaboration with, but also this idea that they can help shape the direction of an organisation I feel has got a huge amount to offer and is trying to do something quite complicated, but also very impactful. So potentially learning as well about what the organisation can offer. And and some of the things we're trying to do, as well as sharing knowledge. So it's that two-way flow of information, both up and down, that I'm really interested in.
Thank you. And you've helped there give quite a useful, broad overview of what you might expect from the chair in terms of the role and their relationship with you and, behavioral traits, etc. In terms of a bit of a drill down, what would you say are the most important skills and experiences that you're looking for from a chair at this point? And just to add on to that, do the applicants need prior chair or trustee experience?
So though not necessarily, I feel it would be potentially useful, but it's certainly not essential. We're looking for the right candidate, and some experience of working in the field, this sort of field, or some experience at least of working for charities or at this level would probably be useful, but certainly not essential. In terms of the kind of key skills, that experience of developing a small business potentially, we're small, we're dynamic, an understanding of finance, but also the sort of risks of developing new projects. A fairly entrepreneurial spirit might also be really useful to an organization like ours, and certainly some experience of helping or supporting growth and change. We have been established since the 90s, but we started as one person, as Alison said earlier, and we're now up to 40 something. So we've never been a static organization. We're always in a sort of state of growth, and certainly we'd like to continue that. So someone who with experience of sort of supporting growth and change, I think that would be really critical for us.
Thank you. And that narrative about the growth from 1 to 40 plus, I think that might be quite exciting for prospective applicants. If you think since the charity's been founded, there have been a number of financial challenges beyond the charity sector. So to have survived, not only survived, but have grown, I think is a testament to the work done over the years. And in terms of your aims, so one of your aims is to engage essentially people from all walks of life. And within the next 5 years, one of your priorities is an equality, diversity and inclusion strategy. Please tell us a bit more about the sector that Thames 21 is operating in. Do you feel the environmental and biodiversity community does represent our society well?
No. If I'm honest, I think we are quite a long way behind many other sectors. The environmental sector has made very great claims about the way we're trying to improve environments and find environmental solutions for all people, while at the same time making a lot of assumptions about how that is done, and particularly for volunteers, what volunteering means and how volunteers should be supported. So Thames 21, in terms of the delivery of our projects, we've done some analysis about the representation of the communities we're working with. As Alison said earlier, we are trying to make environments better. We're trying to make rivers and the surrounding areas better, healthier, more natural. But we want to do that by empowering local people to either take part in making the change, to gather information so that resources are well directed, so that they can spend time in those spaces, and those spaces serve community need. However, if you look at the volunteers who are joining us, it is clear that very often we do not meet representation. The people who are joining us as volunteers do not fully reflect the community that lives around the site we're working. So there's work to be done, and actually we have some specific projects within the organisation which are looking at how do we build connections with existing networks for whom the environment might not be their first port of call, and actually listening much more than we have done previously, rather than saying, everyone understands the environment's a good thing to protect, why are you not joining us? It's like, oh, okay, well, what is it about rivers? What is it about the environment that might interest you? How can we learn? So that's a starting point for how we engage with the people we work with. But clearly, to be effective doing that, the people who work for the organization also need to be able to represent those communities as well. We need those viewpoints, we need those experiences, we need that understanding. And I think it's fair to say we are not there yet. And that's both within the staff team and also at board level. So it is critically important for an environmental organisation that claims to represent and work with all of Londoners that we reflect the community we are trying to work with. And not because it looks good, but because it makes our projects better, it makes our organisation stronger, it means that our perspectives are different, and it means we will then lead the way. And the interesting thing about a London-based charity, if we are able to get it right in London, you have potential for national impact or even international impact. You can show your success as a model that other people can use across the country or in other countries. So, here I'm another middle-aged white man in charge of this organization, but it is absolutely critical to me that the organization I represent and work for succeeds in a way that I think the sector hasn't to date. And I want to be an organization that leads on this, that shows other organizations like ours how it can be done and why it should be done. So yeah, it's really important to me.
Thank you. And I think the honesty is appreciated and would be appreciated. It's interesting you make reference to claims being made. People will be much more interested in the listening piece rather than putting times into making claims. So I think that's welcomed. Yeah.
We have always said we are open to all volunteers because we will offer volunteer experiences that are free, that are on weekends, that we will provide the equipment without actually ever talking to the community about what they want out of the volunteer experience or what they want out of their rivers or their local green spaces. And I mean, I know it's kind of shocking, but that is something we are doing relatively recently, and that is something we're learning. Even after 20 years, we'll be 20 years an independent charity this year. So,
Yeah.
there's plenty of time to do more learning.
Yeah, I get you. So a bit more of nuanced engagement and delivery as opposed to, say, a one-size-fits-all and copy and paste approach. No, thank you. And then back to something a bit more practical around the role. So when and where are the board meetings? Can you give us a sense of the time commitment for this chair role?
Yeah, so we have 4 board meetings a year. They're quarterly, so usually March, June, September, December, across the morning, so about 3 hours. We have a company secretary and we have the whole of S&T plus a board of trustees. So the agenda is set and the kind of the contents are discussed in advance of that. And then the chair would facilitate that meeting, and we would have discussions before that meeting, so the chair's sort of fully aware of what the plans are and what their role is. But that 3 hours quarterly, that's kind of pretty critical. Prior to those meetings, there's finance committee meetings to just sort of discuss and finalise the finance, and that's usually a couple of hours. And those meetings take place online. The board meetings are in person. They're in person in central London, usually within the Corporation of London building in Guildhall, so right in the centre of London. We have a relationship with the City of London and we use their facilities. As I said, finance committee meetings a bit before that, a few weeks before that, those are online. There are other events that we have throughout the year, whether it might be a kind of volunteer celebration event or it might be an influencing stakeholder type event, so some formal, some less formal, that will invite the chair to maybe give us an introductory speech or to be an advocate for the charity as a whole. So there's a sort of figurehead role that is quite varied. And then there are other roles, for example, supporting the chief executive. And again, those meetings are usually, they tend to be scheduled fairly regularly. At the moment, they may be, every couple of months, but I'm really interested in sort of just discussing with the new chair how they might like to have those meetings. Again, those tend to be online, can be in person. There's usually a mix. We're so used to now using online facilities that it can be varied, and we all have everyone at Thames 21 is equipped to be able to sort of use conferencing and online facilities and Teams, so it's quite easy to catch up in a meeting while not having to be present, so travel's usually cut down. So it's fairly varied, but there are the kind of the critical areas are the board meetings, finance committee meetings. There are various other subcommittees, and the chair doesn't necessarily have to represent on all of those, and some of that can be linked to their specific interests. So, for example, there's the EDI group, or there's various other development groups. There's the fundraising advisory, which is talking about future fundraising, that sort of thing, which Alison will oversee. So there are opportunities for the chair to use their skills in specific meetings as well as just sort of overseeing the main board meetings.
Thank you very much. And for the last question, Alison, I invite you to come back in and answer on this as well. If someone was looking at this role, considering whether it was for them, what would your message be? Particularly, you've been quite honest around the representation challenges within the sector and the space that you're operating in, but there will be the same representation challenges and chair roles elsewhere.
So if I can jump in first and say, absolutely, do consider it, do apply, do get in touch, do discuss it with us. This is a fantastic opportunity to get involved with and support a passionate and committed and professional team that is tackling one of the greatest challenges of our times, which is climate change and climate resilience and water. So 100% consider it. and talk to us and do apply.
Thank you, Alison. Chris?
We're a solutions-focused organisation. We are trying to do something measurable. We are trying to have impact, and it's complicated. There's not a single solution. We're not trying to save a thing, or we have multifaceted projects trying to have multiple outcomes that benefit people and communities. It's complicated, it's interesting, it's nuanced, and that means I think there's a lot of opportunity to sort of find an area of passion to support. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to see good done, that, you know, really to make a difference, and that's certainly what we want to do as a charity. And I think also with that variety, I think there's a real opportunity for both a new chair to learn about areas they weren't necessarily familiar with, but also to transfer some of their skills that they have already and make a real difference in a sector that doesn't know what it's missing, if that's a way of describing it. It's a real opportunity to sort of say, have you thought of it in this way? And for us to go, no, that's a brilliant idea. And, you know, that's really what we want. You know, we want that stimulation as well. We're very open to that stimulation and collaboration.
Thank you very much. So in short, if you're thinking about it, do it. It's going to be interested, varied, and outcome focused. So you'll feel a real sense of impact. Thank you very much, Alison. Thank you, Chris. I've certainly enjoyed hearing more about Thames 21 and the work you're doing, the impact you're having, the passion certainly comes through. And for those watching, I hope this has given you a great sense of what joining the board at Thames 21 might be like, and specifically taking on the responsibility of chair. You can see all of the details in the Dynamic Boards advert, and if you've got any questions or you'd like an informal discussion about the role, then Chris's email address is in the advert. Please do reach out to him, and obviously all the best to anyone that decides to apply. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Jesse.